Okay, so this is my first Tamil movie, so I was pretty excited about reviewing this movie on my channel. If you're new to my channel, I do rides and reviews, so check out my playlist. But let's jump right into this movie. I saw the trailer, I've also reacted or given my first impression of the trailer, and it looked like at the surface level, it's a gangster movie. I like Vikram from what I've seen in the past, so I was pretty excited to see him back in a role like this. And let me give you the good or the highlights that I think are there. One is the performances, I think fairly good, and it's the first time father and son in real life is playing father and son on screen, and I think that's the pull of the movie, and the movie doesn't really disappoint that. Yes, Dhruv takes, or rather Dhruv, who is Dada in the movie, he takes a while to come back into the movie. There's a large section where he's missing from for a while, but once he does, I think the movie really picks up, and so I really enjoyed watching Dhruv. I've not watched any of his other movies, but he can act, especially if you want him to do this maniac kind of role who's on the edge, who can pull out a gun and kill anyone at any moment. He plays that. I mean, it looked like Dhruv was really relishing this role. And Vikram, on the other hand, in fact, I enjoy Vikram's acting when there isn't much said through dialogues. It's more from his emotions, and he's someone that's so charismatic. You can just watch Vikram, and so both father and son did a really good job. Standout is definitely both Vikram and Dhruv. The other part is definitely the premise of the story at the basic level. I think it's really interesting. I don't want to give away the stories. This is going to be spoiler free. They've executed it pretty well, right? There are definitely some issues with the way they try to tell the story, but nevertheless, the basic premise is great. The direction was pretty capable, I think, in most cases. The camera angle to how there's a lot happening on screen, even though it's a very long runtime, there wasn't too much of a drag. So again, kudos to the director for that. And the other aspect I really liked is the music. I think the music was apt. It was done really well. There were times where I felt like it was obviously pulling in from some Hollywood mafia movies. There was even a scene and a music track that I felt was pulled from Ozark. If you guys watch the movie, try to see if you can spot that. Now, if I were to talk about some of the downsides, there are a couple of things. There's going to be a few scenes and scenarios that feel a little forced and not as compelling. I think the overall character arc, I mean, we see in the trailer that, okay, it looks like Vikram, who plays Gandhi Mahan, he's like this, typical everyday guy following Gandhian principles. And then all of a sudden you see him as, someone who's in a mafia and selling liquor and making a lot of money, and violence. And, he's in that world. So from light to darkness, as quickly as you see that transition in the trailer, unfortunately, that's how you see it in this movie as well. There isn't really an arch that is compelling enough, in my opinion. So that was my biggest gripe with the movie. The same thing with the son. A lot of what he does is out of anger or a sense of revenge or whatever you want to call it. Even that wasn't fully compelling and fleshed out. I think in many ways the director just tried to shove it to us through dialogues, but it wasn't really told to us in an organic way. And that kind of execution reminded me of Kurup in many ways, right? So I wish they had really fleshed out the journey of these characters, the change that they go through. A lot of it feels like a montage. For example, in the first 30 minutes, you see, so much from the background, or the background of the main character. Let's say Vikram's background to his childhood, what his father was, and then him in his 40s, the kind of life they were living, and then all of a sudden he's gone to the dark side, so to speak. So all of that was really cramped into that first 30 minutes. So as an audience, if you don't know Vikram as an actor, if you're just watching this movie for the first time, you don't really get to hook onto any one character. You're just watching a lot of things happen, and the director is just moving you along, or rather shoving you along the narratives. The action sequences, let me just mention, it's a mixed bag, okay? Don't come in thinking it's going to be amazing, brilliant action. Not really. In fact, I was surprised to find certain, some of the fight scenes at the start were a little choreographed. You can kind of see it from the way they're throwing the punches through the gap between the fist and the face. And then, when once again Dhruv comes on screen, I think the action does pick up and tighten up a little bit. Also, I wasn't a big fan of how they ended the story. once again, you'll find events that happen, without any rhyme or reason. You might wonder, why did the actor do this? Or it's not really compelling, right? You'll find a certain character making very, very rash decisions, almost so predictable, but you wonder, wait, wouldn't he think this or wouldn't he do that? But the director seems like he's really impressed with that ending, with the blaring music, and it doesn't really give you that emotional punch. Once again, it reminded me of Kurup in that way, in terms of that kind of execution, right? So the story is fairly predictable, but there's enough interest there because of Vikram's performance and Dhruv's performance. There's enough in there for you to keep, wondering what is the resolution, or what's going to be the end, or how are they going to solve this. It does at least keep you waiting for that. Towards the end, is it satisfying? Not necessarily, but I am happy that in some ways they could do a part two. They left it, a little bit open-ended for a part two, and hope they make a second one. So those were my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Until our next review, stay sane, stay safe.